Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Learn About DMV Sports here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we'll be taking our usual broad look around the DMV landscape. We are going to actually start in hockey, where we recap the week that was for the Caps. Not great, not bad, kind of hanging in the middle. That's okay. That's allowed to happen every now and then. Nobody's going to be perfect week in and week out. We will also talk about the Wizards, who earned the nickname of Lizards this week because, well, they are perfect at one thing currently, and that is tanking, and they are doing a fantastic job. We're going to look at players of the week for both teams. We're also going to check in on college basketball. That's right, college basketball season is in full effect, full swing. We're going to look at our big three schools, both men's and women's, and see how everybody's coming along, and if an NCAA tournament bid is in the running for any of those squads. We will then, of course, get to football, where, as we discussed last week, both of our DMV teams are in the playoffs. One of them is playing right now as we speak. We're going to take a look at the keys to the game for the Commanders, for the Ravens. I mean, we could talk about it, but there's no point because it's happening right now. We'll also look at a couple of transactions that happened in the baseball world, including a little bit of controversy for both the Orioles and the Nationals. We'll take a look at what that is, all while continuing our Value Brand Wine Month theme with a very intriguing red wine option. We've got all that and more coming up on Let's Wine About DMV Sports on the iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and who, for the past 10 years and counting, very nearly 11 years now, has been bringing you amazing sports content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. If you have not done so already, please follow us on all social media platforms on X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok for however long it's going to be around. Who the heck knows at this point? But please follow us at IE Sports Radio at all of those listed below. You can also find yours truly at Let's Wine _ISR. You can find me on X, Instagram, and TikTok for maybe not much longer, but you can find me on those three. You can listen to us either live or later on the week via Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and so much more. Every listen is appreciated, and whether you're listening tonight, right now, or later on the week, it is all appreciated. Thank you so much. And if you have not done so already, please visit our website, iesportsradio.com. There you will find our merchandise. We've got a whole bunch of hats, shirts, some memorabilia, some stuff for some of our new sponsors as well. Definitely go check all of that out. That is all there at iesportsradio.com/shop. You can also find the show pages. This one right here is for yours truly, but we've got pages for all 30 plus shows here on our network, a little bit about the show and the voice behind it. So if you're curious, as to how yours truly got into DMV sports. Feel free to check that out. Newsflash, it's because I grew up in the DMV. So, pretty self-explanatory there. Not much of a secret to discuss on that one. You can also find our blog on the website, which you can find at iesportsradio.com/blog or iesportsradioblog.wordpress.com. Lovely piece up now about the NFL draft and the quarterbacks coming out. It's going to be a fascinating year for that one. Thankfully, neither of my NFL teams have to worry about that currently. So I'm happy that we can stay away from that whole debate and that whole potential nitpicking for the next, what do we got, 3.5 months until the draft. So that's going to be fun. And of course, you can also find the Hall of Fame, the show schedules, the Fan of the Month page, and more at the website, iesportsradio.com. And of course, none of this would be possible without our sponsors. So we're going to take a quick moment to learn a little bit more about those sponsors, their products, and what they have to offer for you.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
And welcome back to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, jerky that's on a whole other planet. They've got all different kinds of flavors, ranging from your more standard flavors, original, barbecue, all that jazz, all the way up to volcanic jalapeno, ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper, the stuff that's got a real kick to it. So do check them out on Instagram at Planet Jerky and go to planetjerky.net to order yours today. Also, Seal the Deal wax seals, custom seals, the perfect little touch to your special event, whether it be a birthday party, wedding, baby shower, whatever the special occasion. I know we just had the holidays. If you had a holiday party, well, you're a little late now, but for next year, do be sure to check out Seal the Deal Wax Seals on Instagram at @SealTheDeal_Wax Seals. And then IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Big topic of conversation these days. Very important to take care of your mental health, and these guys know it for sure. So use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Great cause, great clothing, great sportswear, all around just great guys over there at Vital Apparel. We've got a ton of sports to get to. First, I want to shout out some comments. We've got Ralph Calise. Good evening, sir. He is the host of our Yinzer Report, the Pittsburgh show. Of course, as was slightly discussed in the opening, and many of you may be aware, the Pittsburgh Steelers are facing off against the Baltimore Ravens right now. We're going to check in on the game when we get to that part of the show. I do have an ongoing bet with Ralph. The winner of the loser of this game had to go on the other show to wish them luck for the rest of the playoffs and say, let's go what the other team is. And he's already banking his side of the bargain now. So we'll see how it goes. Last check, it was 7-0 Ravens. So, it was still early in the game. So who knows? It could turn the tide at any point. But Ralph, I was on the Yinzer Report with Ralph a few weeks ago before the Ravens played the Steelers. I believe week 17 of the NFL. Oh, before the Christmas Day episode, I believe it was, or Christmas Day game, I believe it was. No, wait, they didn't play on Christmas. The game before that. And Ralph was not very confident in the state of the Steelers, and they had a rough end to the season. It was a rough schedule as well. So we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. And then Taryn Rodriguez joining in. He's having a little wine of his own, a little Sterling Vineyards Cabernet Sauvignon. Very solid choice. Not a expensive choice either. Out here, it's only about $10. So that is a good value wine. Speaking of value wines, we are continuing with our Value Brand Wine Month. Recap for those who missed last week. Beginning of January, New Year, some of our pockets might be feeling a little bit lighter from the holidays, Christmas gifts. If you're throwing parties, traveling can have exorbitant costs. Buying a nicer dinner for Christmas or New Year's, buying wine for Christmas and New Year's. So many of us might be feeling slightly lighter pockets. So we're going over value brand California Roots, the brand out of Target. It is obviously a California-based wine brand. And here, this wine costs $5 to $6-ish, give or take. I don't know. I can't imagine it varies wildly from place to place. This week's selection is their red blend. Now, I wanted to pick a red because, I try to what I really try to do is red, white, sweet, sparkling, but they didn't have a sparkling, so I went with a rosé instead, kind of a replacement, something a little different than the other categories. And they had several reds, but I wanted to pick something that I think would be the best baseline, because the problem with a lot of red wines is that they're depending on where you are, where you're growing, they can be a little bit finicky. They can be a little bit tough. Pinot Noir, for example, requires very specific growing conditions. I'm not going to knock a wine brand because they don't necessarily make a great Pinot Noir, because Pinot Noir can be tough. I don't love doing Cabernet for this type of experiment because Cabernet has a wide range of styles. It can be kind of dry, very tannic, a lot of acidity. It can be very fruit forward, very rich, very potent. It's got a spread. So depending on your taste, you might like certain cabs versus other cabs. So that might not be a great representation for you either. So I settled on a red blend. Why? Why go with a red blend? Because red blends, think of the concept of a red blend. It is a mix of red wines. Well, what does that do? Typically speaking, mixing different grapes tends to minimize the harshness of the grapes, the harsher components. So for Cabernet Sauvignon, it would kind of minimize on the tannin and acidity. Some other grapes, it would probably minimize the richness or the potency, the alcohol, things like that. So it smooths out the harshness and it kind of levels the playing field. So this is a 2022 red blend. 13.5% alcohol, which is pretty much smack dab in the middle of that red wine range. We usually say it's 12, 12 and a half to 15, 15 and a half is your standard range. Let's see if we get any notes here. So let's see. I'm going to skip the first line because if I recall, it's the same line that was on the last one. Crafted from premium grapes grown under the warm California sun. Okay, guys, it's a $5 bottle of wine. Let's not get too crazy. Our red blends smooth berry and cherry flavors with hints of spice offer the perfect antidote to the work week. Hey, we're on the weekend. This is great. Pairs perfectly with wild mushroom pasta, that's oddly specific, and grilled vegetables. Okay, enjoy pure vineyard to table goodness in every sip. Again, it's a $5 to $6 bottle, guys. Let's not go crazy. But let's give it a taste. Got to check out the official IE Sports Radio wine glass, limited edition. I might be the only person on the planet that has one. I don't know. Somebody correct me if they have one, but I think I might be the only one. All right, so let's take a look at this bad boy. Pretty pretty see-through, which is not necessarily an indication of body. It's more has to do with the grapes, which for a red blend, you're not expecting for something to be super dark or opaque. So that makes sense. Body light somewhere, it's not light, but it's not much more above medium. Probably, because the levels go light, medium, and full. So that's only three, but I mean, you're gonna have a little bit of a spectrum. So between light and medium bodied, I would say on this one. Let's give it a whiff. Definitely getting those dark berry. I'm getting a lot of dark berry flavors. Kind of a black raspberry, maybe a blackberry in there as well, maybe a little bit of cassis and a little bit of spice on that, kind of the spice notes that it's saying. So let's see if it lives up to the billing. Okay. Subtle, but definitely you get greeted with a nice balanced fruit flavor. Little bit of spice, but it's just a touch, just to give you a little bit of variety on the palate there. Yeah, you get greeted with the fruit up front, little bit of dryness on it, a little bit of dryness on the tongue. Goes down super easy. No real dryness or acidity. No real tannin. Sorry, tannin is the word I was looking for there. No real tannin or acidity on the finish, but a little bit of acidity in the wine, a little bit of dryness. You feel a little bit of the mouth watering um aspect of the wine. When you drink a wine and your mouth starts to water, that's the acidity. So that's that quality right there. The dryness you feel on the sides of your tongue, the tannin you feel in the back of your tongue. So got some nice dryness on the side of the tongue, little bit of acidity, a little bit of everything going on. A lot more complex than you would expect from a value wine brand. That is very good. I can see the comparison to a wild mushroom pasta. Um, I think the spice and some of the dark berry notes would definitely complement a mushroom flavor. With a cream sauce as well, I think would work. Yeah, I think that description actually hit it pretty well on the head. Wild mushroom pasta, grilled vegetables, especially kind of summery vegetables like a squash, zucchini, things like that. Some grilled cucumbers. Um, yeah, no, I think this would also go well with certain meat dishes. I could see this going pretty well with a maybe like an herb pork or chicken dish. I think that would go well. Um, maybe a roast as well. So yeah, I think there's to a lot to like about this wine. I think for $5 to $6, it holds very well, drinks very well, lot of complexity to it, a lot more than you would expect. Good fruit flavors, probably better with food. I will make that note. Better with food than on its own. So I would definitely have this with a dish with some friends. Yeah, overall, pretty good wine. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive into some sports. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sport. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold. Have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports? Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's actually jump into some sports now. We've got the Caps. Let's start with hockey. The Caps went 1-0-2 this week, so 1 victory and 2 overtime or shootout losses. Actually, their victory was in overtime too, so all 3 games they played went to OT. They're actually currently playing against the Predators, but that game will not be completed anywhere near within the time scope of this episode. So we'll cover that one next week. 27, 10, and 5 on the season for 59 total points. Little bit of a weird stretch where they haven't been playing their best hockey. And there's my wife. Say hello. So, yes, not the greatest hockey for the Caps, but still winning some games and still getting points, still leading the Eastern Conference and their division in points. So, hey, I mean, even going through a slump, if they're still on top, they're still on top. Player of the Week award goes to Pierre-Luc Dubois, the second line center. He scored both the goals in the 2-1 win over the Vancouver Canucks on, I believe it was Monday or Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday, actually. And of course, the best player in their win is going to be the one that gets the award. Also had an assist in their shootout loss against the Canadiens at the beginning of the week. Ovechkin record watch, no goals scored this week. He's still at 872, still 23 needed to break the record. A little bit off, really, with the play lately, and that's going to be one of our topics of discussions. The top line has been wildly inconsistent lately. Dylan Strome has had a rough, probably 10-game stretch. Ovechkin had that stretch where he first came back from injury, where he scored 4 goals in 5 games, but nothing since then. And then Alexei Protas has had a couple of points here and there, but nothing fantastic, nothing consistent. So the top line is being inconsistent. They've shuffled the lines a little bit to try to change things up, maybe fix the issues. That has not really helped. Some of the second line is getting a little bit more consistent production out of Dubois and then also Tom Wilson, though Connor McMichael has also been on a bit of a cold streak lately as well. So the top 6 not doing that great. So that's part of the slump. And I say slump because I think they're like 5-2-3 in their last 10 games. So if that's a slump, I'll take that 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. So we'll see how the game goes tonight. But I mean, at worst, they're 1-1-2 on the week, which is not, I mean, it could be worse. It could be a lot worse than that. They could go 0-4 on the week, which is what our Washington Wizards did. That's right, 4 games this week. They lost all 4, including an ever-important game to the Pelicans, who entering last week, they played the last game of last week was against the Pelicans. They lost that. Before that game, the Pelicans were the worst team in the league by like a game and a half. The Wizards lost both of their games to the Pelicans, and then 3 more games to secure themselves by a game and a half, I think it is now, as the worst record in the league. 6-30 overall. The tank is going strong. It's just a matter of time before the lottery, and we'll see who gets traded as well, as we have discussed many times. No real significant moves yet, but we know that part is coming on the horizon. And at this point, aside from Alex Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly, Bub Carrington, Kaishawn George, and then a couple of other role players. We discussed Justin Champagne and a gentleman we're about to discuss here in a moment. Aside from maybe 6 or 7 guys, everybody should be on the sell block. Even guys who are under contract and control, who are doing okay, like Corey Kispert, Jordan Poole, Jonas Valanciunas. Get the trade value that you can go get some more first round picks. We have plenty of seconds, although, I mean, you know me, I'll always take more second round picks. Player of the Week award actually goes to Jared Butler, the backup point guard. Started the year on a two-way, has basically been on the active roster the whole season due to the injuries to Sadiq Bey and then the on and off injuries to other players, which has been a very consistent component lately. But yes, he's played in all 4 games this week. Team went 0-4, unfortunately, but he's averaging 18 points per game and 5 assists per game on 21 minutes off of the bench, while shooting 55% from the field, 58% from 3, and about 80% from the free throw line. So all in all, very impressive performance. Actually, I think that free throw number is a little bit lower. I think I had that wrong. I think it's more like 73%. But either way, the shooting has been great. The production has been great off the bench. He is one of those guys. I don't think he'll ever be a top, regular, top 6 or 7 guy, but as a backup point guard, maybe a 5th guard, a 10th or 11th player on the bench, I think he'd be great. And, it's guys like him, Justin Champagny, who we've discussed, Tristan Vucevic, who has gotten some playing time on and off, Sadiq Bey. They're going to build. You've got most teams have their top 8 to 9. The Wizards, interestingly enough, have basically the next 4 after that covered with those 4 guys, Butler, Champagny, Bey, and Tristan Vucevic, who cover a variety of positions and are, good in that bottom third of the roster role. So, yeah, great play by Butler. Keep it up. I like him. I hope the team keeps him for a little while longer. Because like I said, as a 4th or 5th guard, he's performing quite admirably. And now we are going to do our first college basketball check-in of the season. College basketball has been rolling for a little while now, since the end of October. And we haven't really been keeping up. It was a very busy sports time for us. It's still a busy sports time for us, but we're starting to get some other sports off of the books here, so we'll be able to do more college basketball. So let's check in. We're going to start with the women's side, where we're having some very good performances. Virginia Tech 11-4 overall, 2-2 in the ACC, so very good start to the season for them. If they keep that up, an NCAA tournament invite is sure to follow. Same with Virginia, although they're a little bit further behind the Lady Cavaliers. They're 10-6 overall, so they need a little bit better conference play probably to solidify their chances. But the cream of the crop, and this is for both the men's and the women's side, has been the Maryland Terrapins, their women's team, 15-1 overall, 5-1 in conference in the Big Ten, and ranked 8th nationally, which, by the way, makes them one of 4 Big Ten teams in women's college basketball to be ranked in the top 10. So very tough conference. I imagine conference play is going to heat up rapidly and be very intense for these teams. So hopefully Maryland can keep this momentum going, keeping up. Usually a very good women's basketball program at Maryland. So this is not necessarily a surprise, but nonetheless, great performance so far, and I hope the Lady Terps can keep it up. Jumping over to the men's side, Virginia Tech is behind the 8 ball. They are 7-9 overall, 2-3 in conference play as conference play begins to heat up. They definitely need to improve that performance if they want any shot at a tournament bid. I mean, they definitely at least need to get back over 500. Let's start there, and then we can possibly talk about that. Speaking of 500, Virginia, the Cavaliers, they are 500, 8-8 overall, but only 1-4 to start in the conference. That is a bad omen because you've got about 14 to 16 more conference games plus the postseason conference tournaments. So, yeah, definitely need to turn that number around, that conference number around, because 1-4, if you keep going for another 15 games, you're not going to have a prayer. And then Maryland men's team got off to a great start. We're actually 10-1, have started to fall apart a little bit in conference play. Again, a tough conference with some really good basketball teams, but Maryland 12-4 overall, 2-3 in conference. So hopefully, again, another number that needs to improve there, but they are well on their way to being a team who could get an NCAA tournament invite if they keep up that 12-4 pace. Of course, obviously, then they have the Big Ten tournament at the end of the season, which is going to play a big part in that. That'll do it for the first sports part of our show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to jump into some football and a little bit of MLB news to finish off the show. So do not go away. You are listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are on to the final part of our show. Let's talk some football. So let's just briefly gloss over the Ravens, who currently lead, per Ralph Calise, 21-0. We're early in the third quarter. Things are going pretty well so far. They just punted the ball back to the Steelers. The Steelers deep in their own territory, so we'll see what happens. But things are trending in the right direction for sure. So that's all we're really going to say about the Ravens. We'll cover the game more next week. But for now, let's just see how the rest of the game goes. But in the meantime, let's check in on the Commanders, who did defeat the Cowboys 23-19. Last second touchdown pass, the Terry McLaurin classic, to get the victory there. Gets them to they didn't finish 11-6. They finished 12-5. Hang on, I have to correct that. Boom. Okay. There we go. To finish 12-5 on the season, they secure the 6th seed and, more importantly, don't get swept by the Cowboys. So that's always a great feeling. They earned themselves a victory or a 6th seed wildcard road game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 1 revenge game. Let's flash back to September, early mid-September, when we were talking about the Commanders team that looked disorganized, that didn't look like their defense knew what they were doing. Jaden Daniels really looked like a rookie quarterback. The offense had virtually no rhythm. The offensive line was looking bad. My, how things have changed in just 4 months. Now we've got 2 teams battling out in the wild card. No, I don't think either of them really thought that that was the way things were going to work out, but here we are nonetheless. So what are the keys to this game? So let's start with the offense. Well, I mean, simple, easier said than done, and it sounds stupid simple, but just don't make mistakes, guys. Try to minimize the mistakes. That's always winning football. And this team, obviously, a lot of stuff runs through Jaden Daniels. So it's mostly on him, but minimize the mistakes. Hopefully the moment does not get too big for most of these guys. For a couple guys, I think it's their first playoff game. I believe Brian Robinson, Jaden Daniels, Brandon Coleman, several guys on the team. But for some of them, it's not. You've got some veterans. Tyler Biotis, the center, I believe has some playoff experience. Dante Fowler, Jeremy Chin, I don't know about him coming from Carolina. Maybe he doesn't. Bobby Wagner, ton of playoff experience with him. So yeah, let the veterans, kind of coach you and minimize the mistakes. Another key to the offense, finding Scary Terry, your best weapon. You go to him, try to get him. Tampa's secondary has been inconsistent all year long. So try to see if you can't get Scary Terry going to get the offense going. And to me, one of the most important ones is controlling Vita Vea. Vita Vea, defensive tackle, one of the best, if not, you could argue the best defensive player on the Bucs team, just a monster to deal with in the middle. They cannot let him take over this game. If he takes over the game, if he controls the middle of that offensive line, the middle of the trenches, it's going to be a long day. So if they can keep Vita Vea under control, I think the offense will be able to move the ball pretty efficiently, and then finding Scary Terry to make the big plays, and just play solid, good football. You don't need to absolutely blow things away to get the job done. Just play good, solid, fundamental football. And then on the defensive side, the keys to the game, limit the big plays. This is an explosive Tampa Bay offense. Bucky Irving is a big playmaker. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, a lot of big players on this team. And I'm not saying you're going to stop them the whole game. They're going to give up some plays, but they need to limit the big ones, the killers, the momentum changers. Because if this team gets rolling, if Baker Mayfield gets rolling, if Mike Evans gets rolling, then it's going to be a long day and a tough day for this defense. So limit the big plays. Win in the trenches. Our defensive line has not been the greatest all year long, especially a defensive tackle. A lot of inconsistencies. The pass rush, a lot of the pass rush has come from outside sources, not the down linemen. And Tampa's got a very good offensive line. They have an all-pro left tackle in Tristan Wirfs, good players at all the different spots. So they need to win in the trenches. If they let the offensive line control them, much like if we let Vita Vea control the trenches on the offensive side, it's going to be tough to come away with a victory. And it's going to be important. Arguably the 2 best players on this defense this year, Frankie Louvu and Jeremy Chin, they need to be the 2 best players on this defense. We also will have Marshawn Latimer back, so that'll be key. But if Frankie Louvu and Jeremy Chin can play their style of football and they make the big plays, I think we'll be in good shape. So that game plays tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So cross your fingers. I think this set of formulas is going to crank out a victory. You remember the movie Moneyball, where they have all of the data and they put the data into the computer and they have the formulas entered and it spits out their win total. You enter this data into the formula, and I think it spits out a victory for the Commanders. Now we're going to touch on, with our last few minutes, we're going to touch on a little bit of baseball news, just some more free agent news coming on. The Orioles signed relief pitcher Andrew Kittredge, veteran reliever coming off a very good season for the Cardinals, I believe it is. A guy who will be one of the high leverage relievers, kind of joining that group of Yanier Cano, Felix Bautista, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Greg Soto, limiting the pressure on a guy like Cionel Perez, who can kind of go to more of a hybrid, maybe a matchup-based role, maybe a low-leverage role for him. I think that'll work out well, especially with him and Gregory Soto both being lefties. They can kind of use them interchangeably depending on rest and, how well either is doing. But another weird one, entered arbitration with Jorge Mateo. So the arbitration system in MLB is one of the stranger systems I think you'll see in sports. Basically, once a player reaches a certain level of experience, they enter arbitration where the two sides either agree on a contract or they don't agree, in which case they actually, if those of you familiar with the legal processes, actually have to get an arbiter to rule on the situation. So that is where they are with Mateo. I imagine part of it has to do with the fact that he was injured for a good portion of the season last year. I think that probably muddles his value a little bit on how much the team would be willing to pay him coming off the injury versus how much Mateo thinks he's worth. I haven't seen the numbers on how far apart they were, but apparently they were far enough apart to where they could not agree to a deal. He's the only player who they couldn't agree to a deal with. A lot of other key guys, Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle, Cedric Mullins, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kramer, all of those other guys managed to reach arbitration deals. They just could not do so with Mateo. So that will be one thing to watch over the next few weeks to see if that gets settled. The Nationals, pretty much right along the same lines. Today they signed relief pitcher Jorge Lopez, who had a very good season last year, and he adds a nice veteran presence to a young pitching staff, as they have been working to do throughout this offseason. But they are entering arbitration with Nathaniel Lowe. Now, this is an interesting one because they just traded for Nate Lowe, and now they're entering arbitration. And I saw the numbers. They're off by about $800,000, which in baseball terms is not significant, but I can kind of see how the two sides would butt heads. That is a pretty significant difference. So they will also be going to an arbiter now, and he will have to rule on whether he thinks Nate's evaluation, which I believe was $11.1 million, is more accurate, or if the Nationals' offer of $10.3 million is more accurate. So that is going to be an interesting situation, especially considering they just traded for this guy. You would think that this would be something that would get sorted, but apparently not. So we'll have to see how this whole situation evolves for both Lowe and the Nationals, and as well as Mateo and the Orioles. Mateo is a key infield piece, I think. So I'm very surprised that it came to this, but clearly there was something that the two sides simply did not agree on. So we'll see how that whole situation unfolds. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Shout out to Ralph Solis, Karen Rodriguez, and Marcus Lewis. Great jump in the chat room. Salute to you as well, sir. Once again, make sure you follow iSports Radio on all of the social media platforms: X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Be sure to follow yours truly at @Letsline_IESR. You can find me on X, Instagram, and TikTok with that moniker. Be sure to listen to us throughout the week, all the other great shows here we have on our network, either live via StreamYard, Instagram, etc., or via Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, all of the above and more. Do visit the website so that you can find our merchandise, our showcases, our blog, our Hall of Fame schedule, Man of the Month, and so much more. Once again, shout out to sponsors: Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky that's on a whole other planet; Seal the Deal Wax, Seal's Custom Wax stamps and vital apparel, and do be sure to use that code IESR to get 15% off your purchase and help them on their way towards supporting mental health research. And of course, I cannot end the show without the show's main message, which is please drink responsibly, do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media posts regarding this topic is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly, do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Learn About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. See you next time.